interactions and boundaries. And what do those look like? In your packet on page 18, it's again thinking about how do you free yourself from these preconceived ideas, unchecked emotions, stereotypes. So that is, again, to be intentional is really what it is. Being intentional about how you react, what you're thinking, paying attention to those voices or those thoughts that run through your head and your subconscious, and also lies of the enemy that he might pipe to put in your head. Remember, it's not personal. Again, you may see anger, you may see mannerisms, declarations of independence. You may see hear hurtful words from survivors, but again, they're working through their things, and don't take it personal. It's not about you. And again, you're not there either to just tell them your history, your emotions, your story. Tell us, not them. They're not your property. Of course, I know you don't really think that, but in your subconscious, respecting their right to choose, improving your listening skills. That is always practice. Give them room to grow. Minimize the possibilities of re-victimization. That is really what this module is about. A lot of people, the right intentions, like even in that first video we listened to from Bob Larson, he even said the people that are trying to cast out demons, oh, they have schizophrenia, they're bipolar, and just immediately just assuming and declaring they have demons and casting it out. They have mostly, as he said, good intentions. But how many people have they harmed? I just recently heard of a pastor who saw something like that happen as a kid. And so he like put this wall up of like demons over here, and hopefully I don't have to deal with that. I don't want to see it. I don't want to deal with it because I don't want to have to suffer through watching the pain of what that family went through when they did not act in the spirit of truth from the Holy Spirit. They acted out of what they assumed and out of their ignorance. A girl seeking recovery, suddenly facing all these devastating realizations is scary, and she may run back to what she knows or even try to end her life. When a girl faces these truths, and this actually is probably repetitive multiple times, especially in their journey and especially while they stay with us, it is critical we recognize the emotional weight of these realizations and respond with patience, grace, and support. If we're not careful, we could just say, God loves you and wants to offer you restoration and start over. Like, don't you get it? Don't you get it? What we're doing here for you, what we're offering you? How come you don't see that? I mean, that's what I could add to that comment. That could be what they're thinking or even what you're feeling when you say it on some level. Because again, information in the head doesn't change the heart. And sometimes it takes a while for things to chew on before we'll let things in our heart, again, by our experiences, by our relationships, or inner healing with Jesus. Until they truly know the freedom and the love of Jesus, that comment will come off condemning. And really, that is the intent of it. Like, wake up. While she's adjusting to the facts of not being loved, life is a ruin and generally not used to dealing with so much emotion. The overwhelm of emotions is great, especially when they have multiple personalities, which most survivors do. If it started when they were a child, more voices than the voices we've already talked about in their head. And what's loudest? All the things in line with the enemy, all the things they've experienced through their terrible relationships are the things they believe and hear repeating in their hearts and in their minds. So now to what's on your screen. This was a picture of a big, this was the letter that took her over a month to write with help because she was sold at 8 and didn't write well, but a big, huge collage on a dining room table. To the men that picked me up, for them, this is just one more night. To the men that raped me over and over and didn't even pay. I will still always carry the pain. I'll pray that I will be free of the pain that I carry. To all the times and days and nights I walked by myself, I cried because I did not want to get into another car, because I did not know if he's going to kill me, rape me, pay me. For 13 years of my life, I hoped and prayed that someday all of it would end. I look at me and all the pain I have caused me inside. See, still all that attacking herself. I think about all the old times in my life that I kept remembering all that me has told me, that I'm nobody, nobody cares. If anyone takes a second glance, they wouldn't even bother with me. And this was true, but I have found out that me lied so many times that I hope you hear this cry. So that was for us. Now it switches a little bit. Oh, well, I'm sorry, there's another paragraph. So if you are one of the people who stops, looks, talks about that girl on the corner, wishes she would go away, you will have no idea how many times we pray for it to end. If you have been out there with me, I know your prayers because I prayed them over and over each and every day. And maybe one day you will find out what I found out. This was my life. This is when she switches and she's talking to others, maybe like her, to getting to using to find out one more way to numb the pain. But I'm here to tell you what you are doing to yourself and how you do it is not going to take it away. You find more pain. More men are going to rape and the needle never goes away. I pray this prayer with you that you will find a way from the dark into the light, because when I called my Heavenly Father, He came and got me. So maybe one day you'll find the way. I hope and pray that it won't be too late for you, because some of us make it and some of us don't. But for me, I'm going to try. Hope. I share that because it's a churning, it's a chewing. She's finding love and finding hope, but there's so much darkness and still so much guilt and shame she's holding on to. So how can we interact and have good boundaries to not cause more damage? Again, in our imperfectness, right? So we will make mistakes. But how can we try to be intentional and try not to? Beware of the Christianese, the churchy language that makes them feel less than, especially when they haven't chosen Jesus yet. Recognize your facial expressions, taking notes. Even writing things down could make them feel judged, triggered, teared, turned off. Be mindful of your questions. Do you really need to know, or do you just want to know? You don't need to know all the details. You cannot have expectations of the one you are helping. They need consistent demonstrations of compassion. Never promise anything. Even I'll see you tomorrow. Now with our staff, of course, she's scheduled on staff, but with mentors and things, it's really hard if you promise and things change, right? Life has changes. You may plan to be there. You can say, I plan to be here next week. But even little things, again, if you don't follow up with your word, it just confirms. People say things they don't mean all the time. And again, active listening skills, like I've mentioned, listening. So listen 80%, talk 20%. That takes a lot of practice, and I am sometimes much better than I used to be. And sometimes, nope, my mouth just flaps away. Just keep trying to be intentional. Again, we're not going to do it perfect. We're not going to be wonderful, but we can keep trying. Listen more, talk less. Can you share an example? Can you think of an example, because we're not in discussion, of active listening techniques that you've practiced or that you've heard that you'd like to do? Encouraging, the restating, rephrasing. That one, I really need to practice on that one more. Reflecting, summarizing, but also being very mindful of your body language. And again, silence is okay. Avoiding judgments, and all feelings are okay. They're not necessarily true, but they're okay. And it's not about you. And personal space. Use caution. I know these rules, and again, with women, because I am a touchy person, especially when I'm having, lots of empathy, I really want to touch. And until they're really comfortable with you, especially, whew, please don't touch. And if you do, ask first, or, really pay attention to how they respond. So we had a new resident. I did the intake. I spent time with her. I come back into the house another day and she's telling me something. I'm listening. And then again, my empathy comes out and I touch her and I can see she just kind of shifts and gets kind of stiff. And I went, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I won't touch you. I'm so sorry. Please let me know. I'm very touchy and I don't want." And she says, "Yeah, not yet." And said, "That's fine. I will really try harder." See, again, we're not perfect. It's okay. And remember your conversations. Never ask about her story, her experiences, her trauma, or legal issues. Let her, if she wants to share, she'll share. But again, invite her into what you're there for. Invite her into what you're doing, looking towards the future, looking towards possibilities and hope, making no promises. Be an encouragement. Praise any little thing you can as often as you can because they're not used to it. And it is not normal and easy for me, natural for me to do that. So I try really hard. And so I do more often than not in my life with these ladies that come to the house and that we serve and in strip clubs as well. All right, so we are going to watch this next video. I love JP Sears. He is very smart. He's a little humorous, takes us through because I feel like even this class, if this could have been taught in all families or even at school, how much better all of us would be doing. I wish I had known this when I was younger.
Hey there, friends. I've received a bunch of questions asking, JP, can you talk about creating healthy boundaries? So that's exactly what we're going to talk about today, enforcing healthy boundaries, because enforcing sounds like a cooler word, doesn't it? With that said, why would we want to create healthy boundaries? I don't know what your answer to that is, but my answer to that question is healthy boundaries allow us to protect ourselves, value ourselves, and honor ourselves. If we don't have healthy boundaries, then I believe at some level inside, we're in a state of hypervigilance and a mode of self-preservation because we don't have the perhaps physical, mental, emotional boundaries around us to create the safety for us to relax. So we're in a state of hyper self-preservation. But when we can have healthy boundaries, lets us relax into a place of not self-preservation, but self-realization. And I think that's where we drain more of the meaning and quality of our life from rather than feeling stressed out inside because there's some part of us without boundaries. And therefore, we're always in self protection mode to make up for actually the lack of boundaries. So, with that said, to me, understanding healthy boundaries and how to enforce them first begins by understanding the two ways to have really unhealthy boundaries. I think healthy boundaries is the balance in the middle and the two extremes of unhealthy boundaries. We can go out of balance. And one extreme would be I have no boundaries. Nothing's around me. I have no fence around me. The other extreme of unhealthy boundaries is I have a huge tall wall that runs. I didn't even plan that. So are my boundaries unhealthy and hurting me because they're too tall or because they're not tall enough? There are no boundaries. If I have no boundaries, then I become a doormat to anybody and everything around me. If I have boundaries that are too tall, my boundaries now become my prison. I'm disconnected from the outside world. Hmm. And as we consider, okay, unhealthy boundaries, where do those come from? We want to ask that question. My experience that all of us have some degree of propensity to usually go out of balance in one direction or another. I don't want anybody in. Or Yeah, I let everybody in. I don't know how to say no. I don't know how to say yes. I don't know how to say no. So we usually learn our unhealthy boundary direction of being out of balance as a compensation for something that we've experienced, oftentimes in our childhood, says my experience. And what those experiences typically are is if we're overwhelmed, there's a power greater than us, oftentimes an adult, an older sibling, maybe an authority figure like a teacher, parent, but something that we perceive as more powerful than us invades us. Maybe mentally, emotionally, maybe physically, maybe all of the above, but at some level, we've been invaded. And it feels very violating. And being violated feels very powerless. And feeling powerless feels very shaming deep down inside. So, because we didn't, as kids, know how to enforce healthy boundaries, and even if we did know how to, doesn't mean we could. We were innocent children. We only had a certain amount of strength physically and psychologically. So, as a kid, when we're overwhelmed, we can compensate in one of two directions. One direction might be okay, I've been overpowered. My boundaries have been violated. My sense of self has been violated. So I guess what I'll do, I'll compensate. Where for the years that come, I'll build a big tall wall. I won't let anybody in, and I'll reinforce it with steel concrete. I don't know if steel concrete's such a thing. Sounds like it should be a thing, but it'll be big, tall, thick walls of boundaries. I won't let anybody close to me, relationships, friendship wise. Saying no will be my modus operandi for enforcing my boundaries of disconnection, because we say, if I can't let anybody get close to me, my boundaries are so big, so tall, nobody can get close to me, then I can never be violated again like I once was. And if I'm never violated again, I don't have to feel powerless. I don't have to feel the shame of it. So, in other words, we find a delusional sense of power by creating boundaries that are too big. It's not true power, it's a delusional sense of power via avoiding a powerlessness wound that we still carry inside. It's not processed, hence, we're still compensating for it. Then, in the other direction, let's say as a kid, I was overwhelmed, violated. So instead of building big tall walls, I might not build any walls at all. I might let people walk all over me. An example, when people I work with who, when they were sexually violated as a child, some of them will react with the overly large boundaries, where in their adult life, some people will go the rest of their adult life without having sex with anybody. I mean, that's a huge, 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 thick boundary of protection. And then some people go the opposite extreme, zero boundaries, and they'll have sex with everybody, very promiscuous. Why would that be? Because there's an unconscious program that says, okay, I was violated. I felt violating, powerless, shaming. Never want that to happen again. So if I don't put up any boundaries, if I don't have enough sense of self to put up any boundaries, there's nothing to violate. You can use me, you can abuse me, and I'll use myself. I'll be super promiscuous beyond what's inherently authentic to me because you can't violate me. If I put up no boundaries, there is nothing to violate. So there's that sense of power, illusion of power again, and sense of protection we get, false sense of protection by having no boundaries. You can't violate me if I give you nothing to violate. If I make it impossible for me to have a sense of will that says no, you can't violate me. And if it's impossible for you to violate me, I feel powerful. I feel protected from ever experiencing that sense of powerlessness again. So when it comes to enforcing healthy boundaries in our adult life, I do find great benefit to take a reminiscing into our early life, like, okay, where, how, where, and when, and with who did I experience my boundaries being violated? My experience is it happened. It may not have been an acute form of abuse like you might be used to thinking about. Might have been subtle, might have been chronic, might have been emotional, might have been mental, might have been physical. So take a gander at when your boundaries were violated so that you can get a sense of like what you're reacting to. Because present day adult life, I find our life is hindered when in the present moment situations, opportunities, relationships, when we're enforcing boundaries that are in reaction to what happened yesteryear. So it's like we're looking in the put the rear view mirror over here. We're looking in the rear view mirror of our life instead of looking through the windshield and driving forward, seeing what's in front of us right here, right now. We're looking in the rear view mirror of what happened to us 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And we're reacting to that. So when we're navigating our present moment life situations based on what we're seeing in the rear view mirror, it's probably pretty easy to imagine that that can work against us. We might be missing out on opportunities, connections, self-expressions, self-realization. So with that said, a couple parting thoughts on implementing healthy boundaries for us. First, I invite you to consider, how were your boundaries violated? Then I'd ask you to consider what is your dominant reaction of going out of balance? Do you tend to have no boundaries when you're out of balance, or boundaries that are too big, too thick, too small, too big? Second, I'd ask you to maybe third, if I pretend like I can count right. Third thing I'd ask you to consider is your boundaries. What's a healthy boundary for you is a present moment decision that only you can make. You might have a boundary with someone today. Let's just say it's, this big. And then tomorrow it might be bigger. You have the absolute right to choose what's a healthy boundary for you in a given moment. I very, very emphatically invite you, don't sentence yourself to being rigidly attached to implementing your boundaries in a overly consistent way. That can be a way that you discount what you need in the given moment. And I would also say you don't need to justify your boundaries to anybody. You don't need to give your power away by making someone else your judge and jury, where they say, well, you prove to me why it's okay for you to say yes or no. And last week you said something different. You don't need to prove yourself. A lot of people will try and take your power of boundaries away, which leads me to another thought. Enforcing your boundaries isn't easy. You will be tested. People will say they will try and be combative with you. That's why enforcing your boundaries, it's not just a one time, okay, here's my boundary, please respect it. No, we have to be ready because people will say, no, I'm not going to respect that. Or we say no, and they say, well, it's going to be yes. So we have to be ready with more than just a one wave boundary enforcement. We have to be willing to respect ourselves to have a second, third, fourth wave of enforcement of our boundaries. Forgot what number I'm on. Maybe fourth consideration of enforcing boundaries is notice your reaction. Okay, in this situation, I had this reaction. I want to say no, I want to disconnect. Or a reaction, I'm afraid to say no. I just want to let people walk on me. Notice your reaction and don't let that dictate what your boundary is. Feel the reaction, let it come up, and then let yourself have a response to this. Okay, clearly part of me has this kind of fear-based reaction that wants to say no. But deep down inside, what do I really want? Not for the purpose of just feeling comfortable, but like what's truest for me? That's our response. So I think when we establish our boundaries based on reactions, they're going to be unhealthy boundaries. But if we establish our boundaries based on our response, conscious response that follows our knee-jerk, unconsciously derived reactions, I think we're doing pretty good. And then the last consideration in establishing healthy boundaries is use the word yes and use the word no. Not just one, not just the other, but let them both be a part of your vocabulary and try to let the author of your yes or the author of your no come from the deepest, truest part of you, a part that has courage to speak the truth of what's appropriate for you, a truth that as a child, maybe you didn't know how to speak, maybe you didn't have the courage to, or maybe you did speak, but nobody would listen. Saying yes allows our boundaries to get shorter. We let more people in when we say yes. And when we say no, that's a way of enforcing and building our boundaries higher. It'll need to be different for different situations, different people.
I just want to again encourage you and hope that that was even helpful for you personally, as you navigate relationships continuously as you live. Um, just some notes on this module on page 20 and 21 is rules are really confidentiality. Anything you hear, learn, see in the home about the ladies, about the staff, you don't share with anyone else. Casual, modest clothing. Ask if unsure because the yeah, our culture doesn't have a clue even what that is anymore. No gifts. Yes, if it's for the whole house, it does no gifts, and here's why. Because they're survivors, they know how to manipulate, they know how to garner to get more. Anything that's given to them, if you want to give gifts, please talk with me first. And basically, it'll come from Redeem and Restore. Um, and they know we have partners, that we have a partner picnic at the house. They know that it comes from others, that it isn't Krista, it isn't from the sky, it is from people partnering together to love them and to bless them. And it just helps with favoritism as well. And also, again, knowing our heart, knowing where we stand, if you can agree with that or at least understand to work within that in partnering with us and serving the women, then we invite you and embrace you to be a part of the RRC family. Knowing that we need to be one mind, one voice. If we have disagreements or questions or issues, that they're never brought up with residents, that they are talked only within us, with the staff, with the team of Redeem and Restore, and communicate all details if something like that comes up, or that you see that you have a problem, or that you feel someone is talking contrary. Please help resolve that, because yes, we have had those issues already. So please, we need you to fully respect our heart, our ministry, and the way we do things while you are partnering with us. If if not, then we will be asking you to leave, and the truth will come out as it has in the past. No closed doors, one-on-one, just to, again, even if it's a female, yes. No one-on-one in a closed room, to protect yourself and to protect our ministry. Be vigilant, keep a cool head, calm pressure, even if it's a straight-on attack. Ask Jesus to help you through it, and he will get you through it. And as I said, you will make mistakes, but recognize them, or will recognize them, and we can discuss them if you need to, or if we need to. It doesn't mean it's over and you're done. We can't fix them, just like we can't fix you, and you can't fix me. We can talk, we can learn, we can grow, and we can do life together with love, with forgiveness, and Jesus. So thank you so much for joining us again for Module 5.